Welcome to another episode where we spill the tea on all things Flea. From wild vendor stories to incredible finds, we're bringing you the voices, treasures, and secrets of the flea market world. So grab a seat and let's dive in. This is you, me, and the Flea.
Hey, Flea fam, welcome back to another episode of You, Me, and the Flea. Happy Thursday. If you're watching this, you're probably like, where the heck are you? I am just in a different private little room studio, if you will, today. So, hi, still here. Hope everyone is having a good week. Couldn't help but chat today about the biggest, probably like talk of the week, if you will, which is Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl. And hold on, don't delete me yet or don't leave us yet. I'm not going to be talking about that, but it's like everywhere right now. And of course, like with the theme, so many brands have been marketing it in so many unique ways with the orange and the green everywhere. If you haven't noticed, maybe now you do. But anyways, I couldn't help but think about it too. And the entire album is kind of just showcasing like the life of a showgirl, right? And talking about this new era that she's in, this like or album or whatever you want to call it. But I was just thinking about this in a different light in terms of like what's going on right now at the flea market and thought it would be a really cool topic to discuss this week. And maybe not so much like the glitz and glam side, because, we talk about that week after week here. But I kind of wanted to keep it a little real this week and talk about, pulling that curtain back and actually like talking about the not so glam side, because I get that a lot from vendors, when I'm out and about and chatting with them. It's like, yeah, it's not always great. And especially right now, it's just a really funky time in the world. And maybe you're feeling it, maybe you're not, but yeah, it's real. And so wanted to kind of squash a few of the weird, maybe not so much weird things going on, but things that vendors, chat about that isn't so glam. And maybe you as a customer don't realize, um, or a shopper, because you don't live the lifestyle of a vendor, or if you are a vendor, your reality right now. So let's get into it. And that's not to say like I feel like a lot of things aren't glamorous, right? Like a lot of people say, for example, for me, like, oh my gosh, you're in marketing. Like, that's so fun. That's so cool. Like, you must have so much fun every day, like reporting content and things like that, and not really understanding, oh my gosh, the reality behind my job or anyone's job. But I'm just using myself as an example. But it's just like things that go into it, working and planning and going up against so many competitors now and like staying relevant and popular in some of these trends. And then by the time you do that, then there's a new one that you have to like learn. So there's always so much going on. And I think we all are kind of feeling it right now. So you're definitely not alone. Um okay, so let's just jump into it right now in terms of like vendor life. One thing I always hear that's like a gripe is the early mornings, right? So like loading before sunrise, long hours, sometimes no sleep. And by this, like I know we talk about several times just how vendors are literally there. We're open on the weekends. So they're devoting their Saturday and Sunday to this line of work. You know, and that's not easy. That's gotta be like missing family functions, missing weddings, not having fun themselves. Like, and some people, again, like in addition, like they're doing this in addition to like a 9 to 5 job. And so that's not always fun. Or, and then they're dragging their employees or their kids or whoever's like helping them kind of do all of this. It's like, yikes. So that's not always glamorous, if you will. And I know, especially now, like in the winter when it's getting darker earlier, and sometimes, like, these people are waking up in the dark and then leaving in the dark. And so, yeah, like that's not the funnest. Or the worst, I always think, is like when there's like a holiday that falls like on a weekend or close to a weekend. And so, like, sometimes they don't even really get to enjoy that because it's like, okay, like let's say the 4th of July falls on like a Saturday. It's like, well, not only are you missing like festivities during the day, then you also have to like call it short because the next day you're going back in. So I don't know, there's a lot. And I knew this too, like from my dad having a restaurant, just like always kind of not having him around sometimes, for the sacrifices that he would make. So yeah, definitely that. And it's a long day. I mean, let's be real, because it's not the hours of the market, which are the hours of our markets are 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Like, sometimes folks are getting there at 5 a.m. to hold a spot in line or setting up by 6:30. And then by the time they tear down, it's 6:30 again. And that's like a long time to be somewhere, especially in that environment. So the next not so glamorous thing that we always hear is obviously weather. Um, you know, wind, windstorms, hot and the scorching heat, um, downpours and rain, snow and cold, like frigid cold, and people are still out there. Um, Granted, a little of this can be, you can have an indoor spot, so you can maybe eliminate that, but a lot of folks do prefer like the outdoor spots, and they've paid for an outdoor spot and expect an outdoor spot. And that's where people usually find them. Like customers know that they're like in an outdoor spot, but then it downpours and they're not there and they lose business that day. Um, and things can be so unpredictable with weather, as we know, especially here in the Midwest, which is crazy because I mean, I'm used to it at this point, and I hope anyone listening that lives here, like, is too. I mean, we all just kind of roll with the punches, especially during, like, the fall time when it's, like, kind of crisp in the morning, but then gets super hot in the afternoon and then gets cold again in the evening, so you just kinda never know really what to expect. Um, but nonetheless, what a challenge. And then, of course, like, there's things like wind that we talked about in like another episode where, I mean, things are flying off their tables, their tents are flying around. So, like, if they don't have like a brick holding things down sometimes, like it could really challenge their sales because you're constantly having to like fight the wind. Um, which stinks altogether. But okay, setting up struggles. So this is like things like broken tents, missing tables, a bungee cord that always like snaps. Sometimes I see people just like sitting in their cars or like on top of their cars or something because they like forgot a chair or whatever. I don't know if anyone knew, but vendors do have to supply like all of their own equipment, if you will, or setup. Like you're kind of responsible, which on the one hand is kind of nice because you are able to kind of customize your business however you want it to look. But on the other side, I could see how like it might be easier if we had like an infrastructure that they could just like pull up to. But anyways, like imagine that, like going into work and thinking like, oh, no big deal, we're just gonna set up our tent and there's a hole in it. Or it's like I don't know, ripped or broken and not the one day you need it to, like, stay isn't staying. And of course, that of all days is gonna be, like, the best weather day with, like, the busiest, the most customers, and, of course, like, you're just in shambles. I feel like that always happens, unless that's just me and I have bad luck, but anyway, um, yeah, so I feel like that's something that, like, not a lot of us think about, um, in terms of, like, their setup, like, how many things could go wrong. Okay. Inventory heartbreak. This is things like spending all week to prepare and nothing happens on sale days, say. Um, I particularly think about a lot of like the food vendors that sell with this one because, a lot of people will like prepare like prepackaged, nuts or snacks or whatever, or like candy, whatever they're kind of like pre-packaging. And I can't imagine like spending like all week or the night before, like doing that, putting in that work to make sure you have enough, or even like anybody who does like handmade soaps or handmade lotions and you want to make sure you have enough and then you sell out with it. Like I've seen this happen where they'll sell out within like a few hours and then what do? You have like no choice but to leave, but maybe you have more inventory you could have done and you were just busy or whatever. So I've definitely seen that happen and that stinks. Or then, on the worst hand, then you over prep and need that stuff and then you don't sell it. That's a bummer as well. So needless to say, like inventory and kind of like overshooting or undershooting either way kind of stinks. Like now, if you're a person that has like an indoor space where your stuff is just stored there and, you know, you're updating it as needed, different story, I think, right? Like those folks are probably in a better off position. But for those that aren't, I can see where that sucks. Um, okay. Vendor etiquette is another thing that's not so glam. Dealing with like neighboring vendors who take up too much space or like go into your space. They play loud music. Um, you know, that happens too. We deal with a lot of those, just one day your music is too loud or, you upset your neighbor or everybody's human at the end of the day. And I feel like it'd be a lie to say that everyone gets along 24/7 because they don't. And I think people have like their bad days and their good days. And for the most part, like everyone gets along and everything's like hunky dory because everyone relates to each other at a different level at the Flea, I think. And so it's really cool to see that dynamic. But again, like there are those off days where, you know, you 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 have a little argument or a tiff. Um, and that can be hard, right? Because you like respect and like the person next to you, but they upset you by rolling their cart into your spot and then it knocks your stuff down or might defer you from, a sale of some sort. So we've seen that and that's not typically a glamorous thing that happens. But luckily, like that's always like something that can get resolved or squashed quickly, right? Like a quick conversation can kind of flip that. Um, so yeah. All right. Next one. These are kind of like more uh, business realities that are happening right now. So things like rising costs, obviously like rent, gas, supplies are like falling through. There's like no way of like hiding or sugarcoating that there's definitely a huge rise in costs. In anything. You know, we've done a ton of episodes where even just like food costs and our gas prices, maybe not so much gas right this second, but food costs and just prices on like things and items that we were getting for so cheap or not anymore. My colleagues and I were just thinking about today, like pizza, like getting a pizza used to be like literally an affordable thing. And now it's like $30 for just like a basic pizza at like a pizza joint, for example. Um, and so I think it's just kind of inevitable that prices are going up. And then, of course, like, our fees at the flea market have to kind of coincide with this. So their rents are going up and their storage fees are going up and gas to get to work, obviously. So there's just so many challenges that everyone's kind of facing from, the top down. And so I think everyone's doing like a really good job for the most part to kind of handle this, but it's just something to keep in mind too as like a consumer, right? Like obviously, like, and I think for the most part, we kind of all get it at this point. I mean, if you don't, I don't know what world you're living in, but it stinks. And I think we're all being a little bit more conscious of our spending and budgeting and things like that. So I feel you on that, you guys. 100%. Okay, next one is competition. Like everyone is selling similar items or underpricing or overpricing. I feel like with this one, I see it a lot too in just terms of like marketing, right? Like there used to be a competitive advantage, for example, with people that would post like reels, right? Like you were better off business if you would promote your business with videos. And now that's not the case because anyone can just make a quick video, whether you're, showcasing your product for sale or your business or your flea market as a whole, right? Like in my seat. And everyone's kind of doing that now. It's not like out of the norm to do that. And so yeah, competition is fierce. Like I'm seeing more and more people. So like you have to like think outside the box. And I think that that goes with vendors too. It's like you're not the only person selling trinkets and you're not the only person selling used clothes anymore. Like, so what are you doing to kind of differentiate yourself? And I think that that's a really hard thing to do right now. And it's not glamorous whatsoever. Like, because sometimes you can literally feel like it's never enough or never good enough or what can you do at this point? And so I can see how that's like super, super discouraging. Which leads to my next one, which is social media presence and the pressure of it all, right? Like this expectation to like constantly post and promote your business all the time and always having to do that 24/7. That is not a joke anymore. Like, I feel like so many times, like, again, even if a vendor is selling a dog, like dog treats, like, it's an extra step if you like the way that you can elevate your business is by promoting yourself as well. And I think it's kind of like out the window at this point if you're like, I don't know how to do it. Like, you kind of have to learn. Like, even if you're just posting a photo and saying like, "Hey, I'm here at Swap-O-Rama," for example, like, "Come buy my things or come shop today. I'm in this booth." Like, people need to kind of do that to spread the word. And if not, then your neighbor is, you know what I mean? And so it's a lot and it's a lot of pressure to think of like, okay, what am I gonna post today? Like, is this a good video? Is this not a good photo? Like, you know, I welcome to my welcome to my reality every day, folks. But yeah, it's a lot, and it's a lot of a lot of things in your ear, right? Of like, oh, maybe we should do this or try this or whatever, and everyone just wants to take off and be that trending video, and sometimes, like, obviously, that doesn't happen a lot. So, especially anymore, like nowadays, where everyone's posting all the time and sharing their content. So I would just say, like, my advice always is just like be as authentic as you can to your brand, what you're selling, who you are as a business owner, and do the best you can and kind of just stick with it. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Like not getting discouraged and not getting like sidetracked and just kind of like just keep it going, keep the ball rolling. Okay. Fluctuating crowds. This is a big one right now. Um, Especially I think just all over. Folks are getting scared to go outside. Um, People don't want to spend money. Um, there's just so many reasons. And whatever those reasons are, people are staying in. And I get it. I don't blame you at all. But I think it can be scary as a vendor to not know where your business is going to go. And that's always been, something as, again, as like growing up with a family who owned a business, you always kind of have to plan for that rainy day. Um, and I think it's just really hard right now because, you know, we saw this with COVID, right? Like this was a huge thing with COVID where in an instant, everyone was trending upwards. Like on a perspective, from a business perspective, and then all of a sudden, like our entire world's changed. Literally, the entire world changed, and how we consume everything. Um, and so I think with that being said, knowing that you'll be able to bounce back is something to like keep in mind, and just we're gonna be okay. um, we will be. I think everyone is like super resilient, and I think we'll get through it. But I know that the crowds, from what they were to what they are, like it just fluctuates all the time. Um, and that's not something that's talked about all the time. So yeah, be be mindful, and if you can show support to small businesses, right now is the time than ever, especially flea markets, and anyone in the Chicagoland area, I would say for sure. Okay. Um, let's see. I think mental fatigue would also be kind of the last one I want to hit on here. And I mean, I think again, like this is just kind of like for everyone at this point. I think we all have this mentality of like we constantly have to be hustling, and like we constantly have to be like great and 100% at our job, and like in order to like get to the next level, you have to like, pardon my French, but like bust your ass. And that's true. Like I think hard work um definitely will take you to the next level, but I think that also we're not resting, and some people might not care for themselves as they should, right? Like staying hydrated, for example, or actually taking somewhat of a break really does help, especially in the midst of like all of this chaos. And so I think that that's not spoken about either, really. And some families can't take that break. And so they're constantly mentally stimulated and feel these pressures of, being a vendor and selling. Um, and so, yeah, it's tough, y'all. I wish I had answers, honestly. I'm just kind of bringing light to these more so, and just like trying to kind of be mindful as a whole. And I think if you're listening, like obviously, like I mentioned earlier, like from being whatever seat you're in, whether you're a banker listening to this and feeling the pressures of most of this stuff in your life, or if you're a vendor feeling it in your life, or if you're a shopper feeling this in your life, I think we can all kind of relate right now. And thanks, Taylor, for this life of a showgirl. But yeah, just pulling the curtain back, and like there is this other reality of like work and struggles that go into it. And it's not so glitz and glam. So anyways, if I could say anything, I would definitely say we're all in this together. And I do have some not quotes from vendors, but vendors will say like we're in this together. Like this is things that I'm hearing on the ground all the time. And people are, you know, really doing this for the reasons of like they're returning customers, and they appreciate like, the community that flea markets hold, and during these hard times are just there for one another. So I love that so much. I also think it's really cool, and vendors are saying that they will always love like seeing a shopper happy, or seeing a shopper get like a good deal on something, and that, keeps them going as well. Um yeah, and I think that at the end of the day too, like one vendor had mentioned that at the end of the day, like too, no matter what the stresses and struggles are, like packing up at the end of the day and just knowing that you had a fulfilled day of like talking to folks, and just making those connections, and like not feeling alone in all of this really does make it worth it. Which I love. So I won by saying like, as it ties to this, like every show has like a backstage, and the grit, the mess, the magic is all about the flea. And so anyways, shout out to everybody right now. Maybe drop your comment below what you're going through or whatever, but we'll get through this for sure. Yeah, I'll be curious to see this. And I also too, like every time I actually love the theme of this album. Again, if you're not a Swiftie fan, sorry, but I actually love the theme of this album because it did kind of bring me to this reality too of like, like even like movie productions. Like it's so funny because we always see like the end final product, but there's so much work that goes into it. And then, I mean, and again, it just relates to like anybody's job in life. It's like there's so much work. A wedding, think about a wedding. That's like the perfect example of like, we get to go to the wedding and like enjoy it, but you have no idea what like the bridegroom and like family and friends like all have to go through to like get to that day, right? So, anyways, it's worth it in the end. All right, y'all. Well, that's kind of all I have on for today. Um, sorry it was, I mean, it's kind of a heavy issue, but heavy topic, if you will, but nonetheless, like super glad we get to, it feels good to kind of talk it up too. At least for me, to bring these little stories and snips that I get from the vendors. I love it. So anyway, hope everyone has a fabulous week. As always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share,